Welcome to Arcade Attack. A retro gaming podcast for up to 4 players.
Howdy hi! Welcome again to Arcade Attack.
Woo.
I'm Rob, and with me, Keith.
Hi, everybody.
Dylan.
Hello.
And Adrian.
Oh, I've calmed down a bit now, guys. It's alright. I'm in a good place again.
Yeah, last week we had a bit of a controversial episode. We discussed Electronic Arts, old and new, and how they would kind of take over companies and get rid of them. So, leading on from that, we're going to do something completely unrelated, non-controversial. Today we're going to be covering Syndicate.
Hey.
That old Bullfrog.
You couldn't even have predicted
Syndicate.
that. You couldn't even have predicted that.
And also harking back to another controversy from Arcade Attack days past. What theme or genre is Syndicate in?
Oh, poop.
That's
a good question. Don't ask this again.
It is the archetypal cyberpunk game.
Cyberpunk. But is that a genre? What do you say, genre or type of game?
That's the theme, the thematic genre.
Yeah, the theme is Cyberpunk, yeah.
The question is Cyberpunk 2077 a Cyberpunk game?
Yes.
Just because it's called Cyberpunk, Keith, does not make it Cyberpunk.
No, but it is.
Yes, what is cyberpunk? We can take a kind of quick detour, which I expect there's going to be many detours in this episode.
It's breathtaking.
It's where you've got punks who are a bit cyber.
I'm sure you've defined it for us before, Rob.
Yeah, basically, to kind of go back, there are many forerunners. The books of Philip K. Dick, who did obviously do Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, Runner to Blade Runner. There are films, Metropolis and Jean-Luc Godard's Alphaville. Basically, the first work of art to kind of coin the term cyberpunk was a short story by someone called Bruce Bethke, published in 1983, where a bunch of children live in a futuristic technological society and form a group who rebel against their parents and the society in general.
Yeah.
Those punks.
Them punks, them cyberpunks.
First, generally thought to be like the first iconic bit of cyberpunk, the William Gibson's first book, Neuromancer, comes out in 1984. Bruce Bethke suggested that actually the people who were a fan of that shouldn't use the phrase cyberpunk. They should use the phrase
Future.
Neuromancer fans. Neuromantics.
Neuromantics.
Hey.
New romantics.
General characteristics of the genre: set on Earth in the near future, where vast shadowy corporations rule everything, and where cyborg body modifications are ubiquitous. Main character is generally a loner, usually a detective, wears trench coats. Everything happens at night. The internet or some proto version of it is around.
It's always raining.
Yes, it's
For the
raining
love
quite
of
often.
God, it's always raining.
Virtual reality is mainstream, and hackers are rebels.
And there's always black ice and a bit of white noise knocking about.
Like, you had to get that in, didn't you?
I did, didn't I? Sorry.
Yeah, one of Adrian's
Adrian's favourite games.
one of Adrian's favourite games. Yeah.
That never got finished.
And Syndicate comes out in mid-93.
Yeah.
1993 is more or less the high wave of cyberpunk's influence in culture. Traditionally, Hollywood wouldn't start making proper cyberpunk films until 2 years later. The summer of
They missed the boat by 2 years.
the summer of cyberpunk, where you had Strange Days and Johnny Mnemonic, both like
Johnny Mnemonic.
proper cyberpunk films. You can kind of see its influence in a lot of movies. Came out that year. The Net, Virtuosity, Hackers,
There were a
Barbed
lot.
Wire, Tank Girl. What would you say all these films have in common?
The internet. No. Some kind of netted.
Dystopian future.
Yes, correct. But I mean, and the other thing they have in common is they all lost bundles of money. And most of them sucked. But, they all lost huge amounts of money, and cyberpunk was never really as big a thing in Hollywood again. You had some Philip K. Dick adaptations went into that. Yeah, The Matrix.
Good.
But, it was never really kind of a big thing again. This was really like the point where cyberpunk was a big thing, and the rest of kind of the culture was, going to take notice.
Yeah.
And now, before we get on to Syndicate, I think we should talk about Adrian.
Me and Rob, we do get along. We had a few sort of arguments, haven't we, about the back of the box.
But no, I like back of the box. Basically, me and Adrian were texting back and forth, and then went up to this. And Adrian said, "I'm going to do back of the box," and I said, "Great, I like back of the box." What I forgot to tell him was I actually have it at home, so I could have done back of the box too.
He didn't want to hurt my feelings.
And then Adrian said that he'd come up with a jingle, and he said, "Quote, I challenge you to think of one also."
Yeah.
Oh my god, we're going to have a jingle off, aren't we?
Literally the only reason I'm here today.
You were 50-50,
I was
weren't you?
50-50, but when I heard there was going to be a jingle off, I was like, right, I'm there.
Jingle all the way.
Yeah, jingle all the way,
Oh,
baby.
man.
So, before we get on to back of the box, Adrian, are we going to hear your jingle?
Oh, shall I do it?
Do
Yes.
it.
I've written down my lyrics. Wait,
Here we
let's
go.
get it
Here
set
they
up.
come.
Are you ready for this?
Go on.
Yeah.
Okay. This.
I was born ready.
Everybody, bring your boxes. Everybody, turn them upside down. Back of the box, alright. Oh my god, we're continuing.
Exactly my thoughts.
Brothers, sisters, everybody sing. We're gonna dissect the games by reading them. I've got a question for you, better answer now. Am I the original box? Yeah. Am I providing a detailed analysis of the game? Yeah. Am I sealed? Yeah. Am I PAL or NTSC? You better read the back of me now. Everybody. Yeah. Bring your boxes. Yeah. Everybody. Turn them upside down. Back of the box is back, alright?
Thought-provoking.
Kind of strays from jingle into full-on song territory, but that was amazing.
Yeah,
There's the lawyer of a certain band that kind of got my case right.
yeah, there was a very good original tune you came up with.
Yeah, not really a jingle, truthfully.
I need to get my breath back.
It was worth it, though. Whew.
Yeah, a high standard to
Yeah.
go into. But I've also written a jingle.
Here goes Rob. Here goes Rob.
Don't you wish that you could go back to a time before online you discover games in shops and find info on the box design? What's in the box? What's in the box? If you want some information explaining what a game's about, you can look on the packaging before you take the cartridge out. Back of the box, back of the box, back of the box, see what you got. Back of the box, see what you got. Back of the box, see what you got.
That's very good. That's a great jingle, and that's original. That's original, I have to say.
Yes, completely original. No bands lawyers need to get in touch with us over that one.
Yeah. If I'm not back in next week's episode, I've been lynched, you know.
If you're still with us, there is going to be a podcast about Syndicate.
Yes,
we do.
we will
We
stop
do
singing.
promise. We do promise. But
So, Aiden, you have
Amazing.
the box. You have the back of the Jaguar box Syndicate, and I have the back of the Mega Drive box. But I actually have something better than back of the box.
What?
I have the manual,
Oh.
the
Manual
extended
of the box.
version.
Manual
Manual of the
jingle,
box.
please. Manual.
turn him upside down.
Actually, that'd be really bad advice with a manual, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you won't have to read it.
Yeah. So, how do you want to do this? Do you want to do the back of the boxes, or do you want to do the full manual explanation of
Whichever, man.
the
You
concept?
guys haven't rehearsed this, so I'm hoping there's some kind of similarities between the
Well,
three. But
Should I do the Jaguar one?
Compare the backs of the boxes. I'd be interested to see if they're
All
the
right.
same.
My one has basically it in 7 different languages.
that's to be quite short then. Go
Just
on.
English, please. Yeah?
Adrian, go.
Right, let's go. So,
The Jaguar version. box.
Jaguar Syndicate. It says here, out here, it's you or them. A rival syndicate has gained full control of the population via a mind-altering technology drug known as CHIP. You are an ambitious executive in the syndicate, handpicked to lead a team of chip-induced cyborg mercenaries on a quest to infiltrate and seize opposing syndicate territories. Your mission, assassinate, pillage, destroy, do whatever it takes to bring down competing agents before they unleash their bloody assault on you. The original award-winning PC smash brought to life with 64-bit power even. Point-and-click interface puts you in the hunt immediately. More than 50 completely new missions. You've got a complete arsenal, including the infamous persuadatron. Battle for supremacy in 50 different Syndicate territories from Mongolia to California.
See, I don't think that was very good. Partially because it was a Jaguar, but also because it doesn't give you any info about what those things are. What's a persuadatron? What's a chip? What is a Syndicate? Whereas the manual...
There we go.
This is actually really good, the Mega Drive manual. Welcome to Syndicate. For you, the future is now. After the collapse of the, in capital letters, New World Order, Crime Syndicate swept in to fill the power vacuum. They became the only effective world government. Unelected, undemocratic, but controlling the lives of the people through fear. Their greatest weapon was the chip. Inserted in the neck, the chip altered a user's every perception of the outside world. Better than any drug, it gave hope to millions by numbing their senses to the misery and squalor around them. As a young Syndicate executive, you're looking to make your mark. From a control platform high above the teeming city streets, you observe as your cyborg agents, controlled by the chip, spread the shadow of your terror. Equipped with the latest in high-tech weaponry, their cyborg bodies souped up with extra-powerful limbs, your finger rests on the pulse of their every reaction. The chip controls API, adrenaline perception and intelligence levels. With these, you set the degree of an agent's operational independence during missions. There are over 50 named missions for you to complete. A Syndicate executive must be a master of strategy, assessing a mission environment and planning agent moves. An executive must have the reflexes of a steroid-addicted sprinter and a remorseless lust for power to commit acts of gross violence but sleep soundly at night. Still think you've got what it takes to make it in the Syndicate? They go on for a bit as well, but that's good. Come on.
That is good, and it also harks to a point that I wasn't ever very good at Syndicate because I used to just go, attack! Attack! God, more of you, just attack!
Yeah, but Rob, it didn't mention Mongolia, did it, to be fair?
I want to go to Mongolia.
No, but it does kind of mention the map. Oh yeah, and the next line is killer. It goes, the aim of the game is to spread the dark stain of your Syndicate across the surface of the entire globe. Basically one of the few games around at the time where you played the villains.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Actually interestingly, because Bullfrog did a few of those when you think about it, because I'm just thinking Dungeon Keeper, you're kind of playing the bad guy. You're controlling demons, aren't you?
Yeah.
Powermonger.
Powermonger, yeah.
Powermonger. Populous, you're kind of
you're a good guy. You're a good guy. Theme park, you try. It's mainly you're ripping off your punters, aren't you?
You're ripping off punters. So, you're clearly the bad guy in theme park.
Yeah, theme park was amoral, I'd say, rather than evil.
But Bullfrog, man.
Yeah. Anyway, to get onto the game itself, you have a series of missions in different parts of the planet, mostly centered on assassinations, recruitment of important targets, retrieval of important items, and general mayhem, which would cause each territory to come under the control of your Syndicate. Now, there's a bit in between the main game where you kind of get to set research levels, much like Theme Park. We'll get onto that a bit later on. You have to kind of cover every area of the globe, like Theme Park. Obviously, you kind of get these things carried over, but you have to kind of put money into research, and then hopefully you kind of get better body parts for your cyborg.
And weapons and stuff, don't you?
Yeah, and weapons.
Yeah. What you're saying is that Syndicate is like Theme Park, but with murdering.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, you have a limited amount of money you can boost by taxing the regions you control. And, you channel that money into research, going into the body parts. Better eyes mean your cyborgs can aim better. Better legs make them faster. Better chest makes them more resilient to gunfire, etc., etc. Weapons, you get pistols at the start, through to Uzis and shotguns, and eventually flamethrowers, miniguns, and the Gauss gun.
Oh, the Gauss gun. Oh, man, love Syndicate. Love that Gauss gun.
Basically, the main gameplay, isometric view. You're in these futuristic environments. You control 1 to 4 kind of different cyborgs that shoot people, use the persuadatron to hypnotize them, so they follow you around.
Love it.
And you can get in future cars and drive around, so you can get around levels faster, run people over, and you come across resistance in the form of either local police forces or enemy cyborgs.
Oh man, I used to play this game so much on the Amiga. It was so good. Oh man.
I mean, we kind of went into the history of Bullfrog a bit when we did the theme park episode, but at this point in 1993, Bullfrog had been in a bit of a lull. at this point. The last game, Populous 2, had come out 2 years before. Hadn't really done anything in between. 1994 had come up. They'd have actually a few games come out then, including Theme Park and Magic Carpet.
Oh, yeah. High Octane came quite soon. And then Theme Hospital. They had a big few hitters, didn't they? Just after this.
Yeah, they're really getting to their stride.
Yeah.
I think this is kind of the beginning of the second wave of stuff after Populous Powermonger. Pete Molyneux was producer on this. Sean Cooper was designer programmer. He'd done design work on Populous 2, programming on Powermonger and a game called Flood. We're going to do Magic Carpet. Not really a lot. I couldn't really find that much in terms of the development of this game, but I believe another kind of guy who worked on it was a man called Mark Webley, who...
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, I haven't done it yet, but he's agreed to do a podcast.
He has
and he's
to appear on Arcade Attack.
He was, I don't think I know he's mainly involved in Theme Park and Hospital. He was involved in Syndicate. He was like a exec producer. I think he worked on one of the ports of the game, but he went on to Dungeon Keeper and Black and White. He's a big name, and I think he co-founded Lionheart Studios. Peter Molyneux, they're good buddies, so looking forward to that. So hopefully soon you get a nice Mark Webley
It's a little bit of a
interview.
preview for the guys who are listening there. A bit of a preview.
Yeah, so Syndicate came out first on the Amiga PC. It was one of those kind of computer first games as opposed to kind of console first.
It completely lends itself to the mouse control, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, came out on Amiga PC June 93. It was meant to come out in the 16 bits pretty around autumn 94, but that got kind of put back for whatever reason. Came out January 95.
Really? That late? I didn't realise it was
that
earlier than that, but yeah, Jan 95.
I looked this up, came out January 95 with a kind of key down graphics. It was less complex graphically and less colourful than obviously the computer versions. And then later in 95 you had the kind of later I guess kind of machines, Mega CD, Fidio, Amiga CD32. I don't think came out in any other important consoles. Yeah, the Jaguar.
Rob, I read somewhere, I don't know if it's completely true or not, and I can obviously ask Mark, but I was wondering if you could help me out. I heard the best version of the original Syndicate is actually the DOS version. The actual, not Amiga, the one made for the PC, is that correct?
It's generally regarded as the best, yeah. Obviously it's a very kind of mouse-themed game. How it would kind of work is you would kind of click on a bit for them to go, and then you use the mouse to manually aim with the right-click button to shoot.
Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, and it's still kind of regarded as the original, as kind of the best version. Yeah. PC, I guess, was slightly better than the Amiga.
Yeah,
and
it was only slightly. I mean, they were pretty much.
Don't get me wrong,
shoulder to shoulder then.
Yeah, the Amiga was brilliant, wasn't it?
I mean, the advanced kind of ones in terms of graphics and sound, pretty much a direct kind of conversion. They were kind of very advanced, and the Jaguar had a particular version that was not on any of the other versions. Do you know what that is, Adrian?
It's 50 new missions.
How 50 new missions?
I think it said completely original missions. That's what it said in the box, at least.
Well, the original had 50 missions.
Yeah. Okay, go on then. Spit it out then, Rob.
It had a zoom version. So you could basically zoom in ultra close up or kind of zoom out. Because one of the kind of things with Syndicate is you only really had a limited view.
True.
Of course, the problem with the Jaguar zoom version is everyone hated it. Because if you zoomed in, then everything would get really pixely and you couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
But if you zoomed out, everything would be tiny, super small, and you still couldn't see what was going on.
Well, they're just trying to please too many people, and that's the problem with Jaguar. They try too hard, if anything.
Yeah.
In terms of contemporary reviews, anyone have any idea about this? Anyone want to take a guess?
I know that it was a groundbreaking game, and I know it got a lot of good reviews, but it did get a lot of negative media attention, didn't it? And did that trickle down a little bit to the reviews? No,
reviewers, magazine reviewers, especially at that point, pretty much the target market for this kind of thing, like violent games based around, Cyberpunk, Shadow Syndicate kind of thing. Internet sources are actually pretty vague on this, but that's okay because I remember what reviews it got.
Good memory.
It was widely praised, pretty much 85 to 93% got everywhere. Yep. I found the CVG reviews online. They've actually got kind of PDF prints. They gave the Mega Drive SNES 90% and Jaguar 91%.
There you go.
Also, they'd given the Amiga version 91% as well. So pretty much dead center, early 90s, late 80s.
Yeah. Fair.
Love it.
But yeah, you're right. It was also seen as very violent, but it didn't. I don't think it really had a big impact when it hit the consoles because by that point, Doom and Mortal Kombat were out, they'd open the floodgates, that kind of thing.
Fodder as well would have been out by there, wouldn't it? That kind of took most of the flack, I think.
Well, I think that was more in terms of subject matter, in terms of like blood and gore and like amorality. I think Doom and Mortal Kombat, especially Mortal Kombat, were way ahead there. Like, and going on to the gameplay, I'm guessing we've all played it in some way, shape, or form.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, I played it on the Mega Drive years and years ago.
Yeah, that was my game as well. What did you think of it? Wait a minute, let's go. Anyone play the Amiga PC version?
No, I never played the PC
No,
version.
but I do have a story about the Amiga version.
Oh, go for it.
So the first time I ever walked into a room with an Amiga in it, it had Syndicate running on it.
Oh, really?
So one of my friends from my old primary school,
Name check.
Somesh.
I love how we always have to say the names.
Name check. No, you don't.
I don't know who most of these people are.
I don't even know where he is in the world right now, but I saw him sort of years after I left that primary school, went to St. Peter's, etc. We went round, just to hang out as mates. And we were just playing some other game or something, and I went and had a look at the computer, and it looked like he was doing some kind of research. Like, there was something like he was doing. It looked like he was doing weapons research, and I'm thinking, dude, should you be using that computer to be researching weapons? That doesn't seem quite right. And he goes, no, it's Syndicate. It's that if I just leave it on there for ages, then I get all the best weapons in the game.
Gauss gun.
In the game. And then he quickly saved it and then just played me the intro. And I was like, what is this? This is amazing. I want it.
The intro's great.
And it wasn't too long after that I asked my parents for an Amiga. So it kind of like, and after I saw the game running, I was like, this is brilliant.
I remember playing it and thinking, it felt quite, not intelligent, but this is quite, adult. It's not a silly platforming game. You have to use your brain a bit and look, you're playing as the bad guys. It was like, oh, look at me.
Oh, look at me. I'm the bad guy.
Check me out.
Look at me here.
I'm just going flamethrower some people.
Loved it. And you're right, Dylan. I used to keep my Amiga on all night just to do the research.
When the people used to run around on fire and
yeah, that was
And that was fun. And like the Gauss and the Gauss gun. Which can anyone do the sound effect?
Oh man, it's probably about 15. It's like
Pew 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 pew.
Gauss gun.
Yeah, basically the Gauss gun would make people spontaneously combust. It was pretty cool.
right, yeah. And the flamethrowers, I shouldn't say funny, but they just ran around, didn't they? Headless chickens going, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
That was fun. We've mentioned it twice now. It's so much fun.
But yeah, Keith, your impressions of Syndicate?
I liked it. I liked that kind of cyberpunk stuff. It was a very cool game. The thing that stuck in my head was how ruthless you could be. Because am I right in remembering? Could you blow yourself up? Could you blow up one of the cyborgs on purpose?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could kill you.
So you could essentially, because I think it was one of the assassination missions or something, you could essentially do like a suicide bombing. And that's pretty,
I think you could, and that is...
And I remember even then thinking, wow, that's pretty dark.
A bit close to the bone.
Yeah.
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 But it was, though. It was. And then they had the American mission pack or something, didn't they, for the Amiga?
To kill the
and that was even a bit more...
American Revolt.
That's it, American Revolt. And there was that, and I just had to have them. And I was really surprised at how well the Mega Drive version played, because I think maybe that year, 95 and 96, is when I acquired my Mega Drive with said Syndicate. And I wasn't expecting much from it, to be honest with you. The screenshots on the back of the box don't really do it justice. When it's actually,
do you want the jingle again?
Yeah.
Everybody, no. So it doesn't, and when it's running, and it's actually pretty easy to control with the Mega Drive pad, and it's, I just Bullfrog never ceased to amaze me back in them days. Never ceased.
Love Bullfrog.
I liked it. Like, I had big expectations. I don't know if I quite loved it that much, but I did like it. Having said that, in prep for this episode, I did go back and play it on the Retro Trio, and I watched the playthrough on the PC, and I've discovered something which I think barely anyone actually realized at the time. I don't think many contemporary reviewers did, and I realized something I hadn't kind of realized at the time either. Syndicate is not a very good game. I know, shocking. I don't think it's actually aged that well at all.
Here it comes. We're like doing a podcast about a game we don't even like.
I don't like to. I have to sort of agree with Rob a little bit, because I loved it in the Amiga time. It brought brilliant memories. The amount of hours I put into it was ridiculous. And look, I'm not saying it's a fair reflection. The Jaguar version I think's not as good, but when I played it recently, the Jaguar, yeah, and again, I think you're right about the zoom in, zoom out aspects. Come back to me now a bit. It's not brilliant, and I like all these graphics are a bit rough around the edges now.
I played it the other day.
And you love it.
I played it and I kept on getting stuck, and I kept on accidentally assassinating people I should have persuaded, and things like this. It is flawed. I think Rob's pretty right, actually, because at the time, gaming had got so far, right? And the game's limitations weren't as obvious.
Plus, but still, it was one of the first sort of real 3D games, wasn't it? Kind of isometric.
Yeah,
that was quite
so
cool.
Moving around an isometric plane.
Looked pretty cool back then.
So much was hidden.
Yeah.
This is the thing. When I tried to play Syndicate the other day, what really kind of hindered my enjoyment of it is that I forgot a lot of these targets are in buildings. Yeah. And you can't see in buildings, so when you go in buildings, they don't pop the roof off. I think they learnt from this later on.
Yeah, you can see your icon, can't you?
You can see the icon, and you can just about use the radar to kind of work out if your target is in the building with you. But it led to me, like I said, accidentally assassinating loads of people in like the first sort of 10 missions or so. I just got so annoyed with it. I just got so frustrated with it.
Yeah, I think all these things are all issues. For me, I think the big issue is the lack of variation. And I said there were 50 missions, but it feels like there's a million. And the gameplay for pretty much each area is largely the same. Everything pretty much looks the same in terms of like setup, what's there, structure the levels, whatever. There are only 2 different music themes in the entire game. And not really as much variation in structure of the levels to make it stand out in the same way as, say Cannon Fodder. Cannon Fodder, in terms of like what's there in each level, the way everything's spaced out feels pretty different, depending where you go. Like, they're kind of the trees, there's water, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Syndicate, you're basically in a...
Buildings.
Yeah, it's buildings, urban environment, every time.
They're quite similar look and feel games, aren't they, in a way?
Yeah, I think they came out around about the same time.
Do you know what, though, Rob? One of the things I loved on the Amiga and about Syndicate was the fact you can get into vehicles and drive them around. I thought that was brilliant.
I love the little cars. And you zoom around in them. I love it.
It felt a little bit like Grand Theft Auto, but obviously a bit way before that. But the fact you could just drive around and go, oh, look, I can do this and run this person over.
Well, there are certainly similarities between the two games. I mean, you have, like, in both games, you can wonder about these kind of environments. It was pretty freely. You have, like, innocent civilians who you can choose to kill or not kill, as, kind of a connect on the side of the missions. The whole amorality thing, I think, obviously... what it ended up being an influence on, I think, the GTA games. I was going to say, the other thing I'm not a fan of is I don't think the research bits really add that much. It kind of feels like it's 2 different games that don't really necessarily fit together.
I mean, strategy, Rob, man.
If you think about it, like, either the research makes a big difference or it doesn't in terms of what you decide to put in when. And if it does make a difference, you somehow have to guess what missions will be important further on to get the right things, to get it right, whether you put money in terms of weapons or body parts or whatever, in which case it's pretty much a crapshoot. Or you don't, otherwise, what's the point? Like, I get the feeling it was probably more of a thing in like kind of theme park, it was more of a thing in the PC games than it was in the consoles.
What, the research bit?
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same. The thing is, a lot of games have a kind of a shop in between levels, right? So I'm thinking like Ghostbusters and things like that. It was just another way of trying to build that in and give the player a bit of choice about weaponry, etc., attributes, yada yada. But Syndicate, like you said, there's 50 levels essentially, right? I did do exactly what you said. So I improved my agents in the wrong way, and then started from scratch, and then just did it again. And a lot of players did that. They didn't really mind. It wasn't, there was a lot of guessing, but after a time, you get to know the missions, and there are only 50. And I think I've never completed it. But I did get really near the end of it. And I don't know, it was, back in those days, it was addictive. Wasn't it? And we were slightly sadistic teenagers.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I agree. And kind of parts that's what Rob was saying. It was really good at the time, wasn't it? It felt right at the time.
It felt really on point at the time. And that's why I think we've got fond memories of it. And I really wish I didn't play it the other day because it just... Yeah. It kind of... When you said you were planning this podcast, I was like, I better brush up on the Syndicate.
I think
and I wish
like
I hadn't.
Yeah,
But, like,
I
the-
do it, yeah.
the concept of the game is really its strongest point. I think the Southern concept is fantastic.
Yeah.
In terms of the idea, it did feel really individual at the time. I think both the gameplay and like I'm pretty sure that game did come out before Cannon Fodder and the Amiga PC. It was probably close together on the consoles.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
But obviously at the
Very
time
close.
it was very innovative, very like individual. I mean, there are other games that were kind of vaguely similar, but you kind of add the theme and the concept together, all that kind of stuff. It did feel really fresh at the time.
Yeah, it was super fresh. Yeah. I think it controversy for controversy's sake, or was that kind of violence needed for that type of game?
Yeah, but it wasn't
Could
walk
they have
around-
sidestepped it?
Walk around,
A bit?
pick up groceries, and go to the supermarket.
No, you know what I mean? Like, couldn't you just like shoot someone and they just kind of like flash a little bit and then?
Well, I think some of
And
the
then
versions, they
disappear.
got rid of blood, didn't they? I don't know if I was going to talk about that. Quite interesting.
I wasn't going to talk about that, but
I think it's the German versions. I think they removed blood or
A
something.
lot of stuff was censored in Germany, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like, if
Still
you-
is, yeah.
I think I've got
Yeah.
a couple of trivia bits about it, actually. I don't want to jump on Rob's bandwagon.
I know,
here.
be my guest.
It was. I mean, like, I'm the only one of us who hasn't played it recently. Then, and so I think I probably
Please
won't
don't.
I probably won't. I probably won't bother because I bet it does really stand out in my. You know, the amount of Mega Drive games we played back in those days.
Oh,
You know,
God.
and there'll be loads that I haven't thought of since, but it did stand out, and it stands out in my memory. I think because at the time it was different, and it was. I don't know. I don't want to say like cutting edge, but that kind of game on the Mega Drive as well was quite rare, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I was so surprised they even ported it to the Mega Drive. I just couldn't even believe that
Did it come out on the SNES as well?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Yeah, same time.
the same version of it, I think, was on the
Must
There we
have
go.
been.
Here's some cool facts, guys.
I think. Sorry, I was going to say before you go into that, like the SNES apparently, because I don't think any of us played the SNES version, but when you were kind of choosing your cyborgs, they had like kind of like manga faces, like different colored
wow.
hair.
Cool.
All right,
Like
I'll have to check that out.
yeah, and like I don't think it's on the Mega Drive. But the SNES
No,
version, they all have
it's
really
definitely
brightly
not on the
colored,
Mega Drive, no.
different haircuts.
You didn't
Like
they all
really
look the
hair
same,
colours?
wasn't
No,
Did they all
like
look the same
Mega
on the
Drive was
Mega
all red hair, wasn't
they?
it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. They all look the same.
redheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like SNES was like bright blue, bright pink, and
Oh.
so on.
Using the SNES's extra palette there, yeah.
I've got here, apparently in production, and even some pre-release versions, there was going to have mothers with baby carriages, and even dogs in the game as well.
Oh,
But these were removed.
Yeah.
And yeah, the German version, the blood was removed completely. There you go. The architecture in the game, aside from the more obvious cyberpunk influences, is also influenced by Surrey Research Park, where Bullfrog offices were situated at the time.
So you just wander around the park and go, oh, let's use that bit in Syndicate. Oh, that person is on fire over there. Let's use that.
Yeah, no mothers and babies, luckily, so we won't use them. That's what
So
they're
do you think
thinking.
that Syndicate was a bit of a victim of technology at the time? It sort of it was a concept that the technology couldn't quite do justice.
Yes and no. I think graphically it looks fine. Like the issue is just the variation. I think maybe it was less the technology, more.
How would you?
I was going to say more the development time. Like I don't think they already had the time to kind of put in 50 different unique levels and to kind of make it like that. And maybe you could argue the concept would demand to be truly cyberpunk. It would kind of demand that you don't do that. That everything is pretty samey. That conceptually the world needed to be like that kind of generic. Everywhere needed to look the same to be true or adherent to the general concept of a world where syndicates had taken over and everyone was mind controlled.
When I played it back in the 90s, I never had that feeling of boredom with the levels. I had the feeling of frustration that obviously I didn't progress my agents in the right way. But I never saw that. So I just couldn't, I still can't think how they could have further, how would you vary some of those missions then? Because it's usually find this person, persuade this person, or find these people, kill these people. What else would you have brought to the table then? How would it have? How would it have made it better for Rob?
I don't
back
think the
in
missions are really the issue, even so much the issue, but there needs to be more variations in how you complete the missions. Like,
Right.
say, kind of go on to some, like, I guess, Jungle Strike. This is, for me, like, a great example of this. There are missions where, yeah, a lot of them are shooting things, but sometimes some missions you have to get into different vehicles to do it. Some things you have to rescue people and then do it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it just feels like Syndicate, everything's very linear. Each, like, level has one mission you have to do.
Yeah.
So there's no progression in terms of within the levels. A lot of the missions are the same as well, which doesn't really help. And the music, man. Music is not great, and there's only literally one theme tune, and then like there's and like there's an enemy cyborg, and that's it. Nothing else. 50 levels.
For 50 levels.
Because I've been playing Commandos recently on the PC, which I don't know if you guys have played Commandos. It's quite a similar sort of game. It looks like Syndicate.
But with army dudes, doesn't it?
With army dudes. It looks more like Cannon Fodder Tribute. It's World War II sort of game. But, oh my words, it is a puzzle game. It's a strategy game. And there are different ways to complete the mission, but it's not about all guns blazing. I think Syndicate, even though, look, Commandos came out in the late 90s, this is a much earlier game, but it would have been quite good if you had to use your brain a bit more to solve certain missions.
Yeah, I gotta agree.
And maybe each Syndicate had slightly different powers or different, just kind of steal things of Commandos now a bit. But if one Commando had this power, do you understand?
Yeah.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
All my agents were pretty much the same, because I just like my band of 4, and I just like, let's all give them this gun. And let's all give them
I
this
suppose,
one.
no, you could mix and match a bit, couldn't you? But I'm just thinking, could one have slightly different, skill set, maybe?
I didn't have that depth of thought really at that age.
No.
Yeah, I think another issue with the gameplay is it's not really any advantage of kind of splitting the group up. Like, you're basically strong if all 4 of you together and all doing the same
because
thing,
then the other
shooting.
guy will just get killed, and you're like,
Yeah,
no,
whereas like if you had kind of an opportunity to maybe post one as a guard, and like guard like kind of the other ones, and kind of 2 laying down suppressing fire, whatever, while the 4th did something else, but it was different kind of strategy for each level. I think that would be a big improvement.
yeah.
Sounds like Commandos. I know what I'm getting Rob for
They
his
copied
birthday.
a game that came 4 years later.
yeah, my bad.
Speaking of the aftermaths, Syndicate was very successful at the time. It became a series. We mentioned earlier, Syndicate American Revolt. Came out later in 1993, 21 more missions. The plot is that you've taken over the entire world, but the Yanks are rebelling, so you have to put down that rebellion.
Oh yeah.
Just like we should have done 400 years ago. Anyway, I haven't played it. Has anyone played Syndicate Wars? Syndicate American Revolt, sorry.
Well, I had it again. I didn't get that far through it. It was just a reskinning, wasn't it? It's just a reskinning of the original.
It's meant to be insanely hard.
Yeah, I didn't get very far.
And the enemies are even more invisible than they were. Because that was another gripe. A lot of invisible enemies in Syndicate, where they'd be shooting at you couldn't actually see where they were.
Yeah, they'd mostly be in like a building with a roof on, and you're like, where do I shoot? What do I do?
Yeah.
But again, back in the day, playing it so much, you'd learn where they were. So you'd redo the mission and go, I'm going to bust into that building, shoot to the right, they're dead. Whereas playing it the other day, I was like, oh, this is annoying. This is getting really annoying. But the American Revolt, I thought was a cool little skin. Like, they had made everything look a bit more southern, so everything was a bit more deserty, and it's a bit more Syndicate. Let's be honest.
And back then, that's a good thing.
It's an easy sell. How well did that sell go? I don't think many people had that, did they?
I think it was just kind of like an add-on kind of thing.
Like
I don't know if they really
not many people bothered
compiled
getting it.
sales figures for it. There wasn't a sequel till about 3 years later, Syndicate Wars.
Yeah, I remember that.
Again, did you play that?
Yeah, I had it on the PC. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was looked really classy. The graphics were great. It seemed quite a dark game. I don't know if you played it, Rob, but it's quite a dark game. I think there's more vehicles involved. It was very similar, but just a bit more glossier. I think it looks pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it came out PC in 1996 and the PlayStation in 97.
Wow.
It takes place about a century after the first game. You're still like the Europe Syndicate, whatever they're called. You're fighting a cult called the Church of the New Epoch, which is short-circuiting people's chips to try and fight against Syndicate control, so they can control people and ultimately take over the moon and kill everyone on the planet.
Wow.
Hooray!
You can control people from either side, like Syndicate or the Church. Destroy any scenery, which you couldn't really do in the first game.
That's pretty cool.
And there was also local area network multiplayer option.
Yeah.
And one of the big changes, you can tilt the camera to change viewpoint when you go around things. Improves visibility.
Yeah. I spoke about this ages ago on the Duke Nukem pod, but when you could blow up walls in games, it blew my mind. It's like, oh my words, this solid in-game wall it can now be pulverized and you can get through different ways. So I remember that's a great little add-on, I thought, actually.
Yeah. Reviews tended to be mixed. Generally, when we say mixed reviews, it's a euphemism for bad reviews. But in this case, they do seem to be genuinely mixed. Like, there's some very high marks, particularly for the PC version. There were kind of a few middling ones as well. PC version is regarded as being far better than the PlayStation. I think an ongoing issue with this game in terms of adaptations, the control system works much better with the mouse.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently a big gripe with the Jaguar version was that the control system, the buttons didn't really translate. It was way too complex, apparently, on the Jaguar.
Yeah. No, I didn't like that. I probably gave it too soon, truth, in the Jag version, but I was like, oh my words, this ain't the Syndicate I remember.
No.
So, yeah, it's a bit sad, actually.
Yeah, I think by this point, maybe late 90s Syndicate, that whole kind of dynamic was looking to be a bit old hat. They did bring it back for a game in 2012.
Yeah, I read about
EA
this.
brought it back, another game called Syndicate, made by...
No, I'm already a bugbear. Why would you can't bring it back and just call it Syndicate? You called it Syndicate 3.
Well, I think it was meant to be at the same time as the original Syndicate, so if you had Syndicate Wars, it wouldn't make any sense for it to be Syndicate 3 if you were going back a century. Anyway,
Syndicate Part 2. Syndicate Second Blood.
Yeah, Last Blood, something like that.
also, Adrian, I think I'm going to have to disagree with you on this because they did change the dynamics of the game around completely.
But the same name.
I never had a look at that. Tell me
I've
more.
not seen
It
it.
was made by a Swedish developer called Starbreeze Studios. I was not that familiar with their stuff, but looking at their Wikipedia page, they seem to have been in constant dire straits for years. Just kind of constant
not good.
array. They were owned by EA. Took something like 5 years to make this game.
Whoa.
They got Richard Morgan to write the script. Anyone know who Richard Morgan is, or what his most famous work is? He's a sci-fi writer. His most famous work being Altered Carbon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, now a Netflix show.
Yeah, Altered Carbon. I haven't watched that yet. So
He wrote the script for the game. It's a first-person shooter, but you can also hack into stuff and reprogram it while you're kind of doing it. Fairly well reviewed, but apart from people said the weak link, ironically, was the plot.
no.
The plot was regarded as being too generic, kind of sci-fi stuff. You're not like the Syndicate itself. You're like a one person who's like a cyborg who, I don't know. I tried reading the script. It looked very complicated and
So
boring.
you're not orchestrating for cyborgs.
No, you're just one man. Or
You're just one
cyborg.
dude.
No, you are like a cyborg who's controlled by the Syndicate, but there's some researcher as well, and it seemed really complex. I couldn't really work out whether you were working on behalf of the Syndicate or not, or whether you were rebelling, or...
Maybe you're like the Bioforge dude. And you just,
Bioforge, why am I here?
yeah. Hit people with limbs.
We must be friends. I will hit you with my limbs.
Yep.
Anyway, it was fairly well reviewed, but it sold poorly. And by sold poorly, I mean it really sold poorly for an EA, a big
Wow.
high-profile
Was this
EA
a
game.
PS3 game, you said?
PC.
Oh, PC.
EA can afford it, right?
150,000 copies worldwide.
Oof. What?
That's
Yeah.
terrible. In 2012.
That's
Yeah.
bad. 2012.
It's not a lot at all. So, unsurprisingly, no sequel to Syndicate. Although, I don't know, it looked pretty good from the footage I saw online, but it didn't look massively different to a lot of other first-person shooters.
It sounds a bit like, I know it's a different development team, Command & Conquer. They actually went into their last game, or one of the last games in the series, was a first-person shooter, and it was like...
Oh, really?
It was mediocre. Yeah, I can't remember the name of it now. But
yeah,
it
do
was...
you think it was just a bandwagon jump?
Maybe.
Yeah, first-person shooters is where the money is.
Maybe, and I mean...
Shame, but...
I have a feeling maybe an issue would be that there wasn't an effective multiplayer version. At least when I was kind of looking up the game, there didn't seem to be a multiplayer version, and I think in this day and age, you have to have an incredible plot or kind of gameplay concept
That's
for
it,
non-multiplayer first-person shooter to work.
Do you know what, Rob? I was reading actually that the original Syndicate was supposed to have multiplayer originally, but EA couldn't get it working, the servers working, so they had to give up on that. I suppose it would have been really difficult back then.
That would make sense because it's really difficult to kind of when the screen is only so big, and which I guess why the Jaguar Zoom option came in, and so you can't really get that much space between multiplayers.
Yeah.
I mean, it may have worked if you kind of get 2 or 4 kind of players together, but it would have been pretty frustrating if you can't actually go beyond one screen's worth
Can you imagine
of ground.
Yeah.
It needs the internet, doesn't it?
So, yeah, that was the last official Syndicate game, although Mike Diskett, lead programmer for Syndicate Wars, he really disliked the 2012 Syndicate, thought it was going against the ethos of what the game was.
Yeah.
And he made a game called Satellite Rain 2015.
Oh, I've seen screenshots of this, Rob. I've done a bit of... It looks brilliant, doesn't it? I think it looks good.
Reviews?
I couldn't really find much in the way of reviews.
I was quite impressed personally. There you go.
It was pretty small scale by the looks of it.
It was like
didn't really look
Syndicate,
that.
wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
that kind of that look,
Isometric dark kind of thing, isometric viewpoint. Just didn't look great to me.
well, I thought it looked good, but
It's
there
got
you
a
go.
7 out of 10 on Steam.
That's
Whoa.
not horrific.
80% from PC Gamer and a Metacritic score of 75%.
That's not bad. Satellite Rain, is it?
Satellite Rain and that's
REIGN.
rain as in- Yeah, King's Rain, not wet rain.
Satellite Rain.
Yeah, I thought. Maybe I'll try and get in contact with old Mikey boy. See if he's up for an interview. We'll see.
Why not? Let's hope this comes out after you do the Mark Webley interview.
Yeah.
Oh, it will. I'm sure it will. We'll work it
Yeah.
out.
You can tell them about your hatred for EA at the same time.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that.
So anyway, to sum up, obviously we've kind of spoken a bit about it now, but looking back, and kind of I guess looking afterward, in terms of Syndicate's legacy, what do we think Syndicate? Where do we think Syndicate lies in terms of kind of classic games? What is this legacy going to be, Dylan?
I think it's influential. I think its influence is undeniable. I think with, there was a bit of a cyberpunk bandwagon on at the time, but it was, for me, in my head back then, the best one around then. Sorry. It could have been, I like the way that they didn't sort of dilute the violence. I thought that was, even as a young teenage man, I thought that was pretty cool. But it's just a shame because people aren't going to put it in the top best games. It's not going to be in the top 50, top 20 best games ever. But it's definitely one of the most influential when you look at sort of that kind of impact it's had on games after it. So give it respect. If you want it to live nicely in your brain and your memories,
Yes.
don't pick up an emulator and don't play it now. So that's what I'd say.
Keith?
I wonder if, we've spoken about remakes and stuff before, but a proper current gen remake of the original game,
I'd
where,
love that.
where you used all the CCTV cameras. I'm thinking, like Watch Dogs kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Would you have it as like a third person thing, or actually like a point and click thing, or?
I'm not sure.
difficult,
but
isn't it?
I think it's a kind of game, like Rob was saying, the idea of it was better than the actual game back then.
Yeah.
So you could perhaps take that idea now with modern technology. I'd quite like to see that. And not in a kind of like that, the Satellite Rain, it looks like a kind of an homage to the original. But in a proper sort of modern style. It could be good.
I'd quite like a VR kind of version of it. I'd quite like to be like one of those agents on the ground, and maybe you could flip up to be like a kind of like a control deck. So you could be agent on the ground and kind of like seeing like laser, like bullets and stuff like flying past your head and people on fire and stuff, and like being on the ground, like actually being immersed in it. And then you can kind of snap back to the old school player and the actual guy who's orchestrating it.
Yeah.
You could have a bit like a control panel kind of thing, and you can kind of move things around. And
Yes,
kind of,
yes.
Well, I think looking forward, that's kind of the fantasy as to what people think VR games hopefully be. Like, you're kind of this team of 4 of you. You go around the city like you're with like guns, whatever, collect stuff, and everything's super real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's that's what I think. That's what Syndicate deserves. I think.
But I think in terms of influence, Aid mentioned like GTA.
It had a massive,
definite
because they even said like GTA was that kind of perspective was sort of taken from Syndicate Wars.
Yeah.
So it might not have been Syndicate exactly that. Had a direct influence on it, but Syndicate Wars definitely did. And look at the violence in Syndicate, and that definitely was translated to the first Grand Theft Auto, and you know how that turned out. So,
Adrian?
For me, I think, because I like Populous and Powermonger, I thought they were good games, but it was the first Bullfrog game that really enticed me, truthfully. And ever since then, I became a Bullfrog addict even. And I got addicted, actually. Every single sort of Fallout game I'd get, and it was... for me, they always seem to improve or try new things out. I always love Bullfrog, actually, trying new things out. So, is it Bullfrog's best game? Probably not. But back then, like Dylan said, it was something about it that was so addictive. I put hours into it. And I kind of agree.
We needed that kind of gratuity, I think,
Yeah.
because we didn't, and I didn't have a lot of videos back then. I didn't have Sky TV. It was my kind of reaching into that, kind of culture was through games, and Syndicate really kind of
100%.
brought that kind of gore and that kind of dystopian future thing to the fore. That and Dreamweb, obviously, that we spoke about before. So those kind of things really had.
It'd be a shame in a way,
impact.
wouldn't it, if that new Syndicate game is the final full stop in the
Someone
series.
has to make a VR Syndicate. Yeah, it just has to happen at some point. Yeah.
I don't know, I think for me, I think Syndicate, regardless of how it plays now, deserves a lot of praise for, I think, I'm pretty sure, I looked this up, I couldn't see any forerunners. Pretty sure Syndicate was the first explicitly cyberpunk game to be released.
Really?
Cyberpunk, was not a mainstream kind of thing by that point by any...
Yeah, I suppose because Dreamers 94 and then the other ones... Yeah,
it wasn't really a big thing, unless you want to count the original Blade Runner movie, which kind of predates, like, Neuromancer, but it wasn't kind of like a mainstream kind of thing outside of literature, really, or even in literature, but outside of literature at all. I think, the development Syndicate, it deserves a lot of credit for the developers, not only kind of wanting to translate that into the frame of a game, but actually making a kind of an effort to engage, even if it was in a linear way, engage with the ideas behind it. The fact that, like, Earth was kind of controlled by these, like, syndicates who were kind of controlling minds, these massive corporations who were kind of like superseding governments.
Yeah.
We have it actually running with it and doing, like, justice in terms of actually following through with the violence and, like, the amorality in a way that, what actually did make sense and actually kind of went for it.
They tried to do it in a faithful way instead of just like taking the aesthetic and.
Yeah, they actually like kind of took this adult concept and actually made a game around it and actually made it feel very atmospheric toward that. Like, I know I was moaning about the music, but the music they do have is cool. Like, it feels kind of like it really suits everything about, like, the graphics and, like, that kind of thing really suits the concept and the overall atmosphere, and I love that. The only thing I would say, in contrast to you guys, I don't think there should be another Syndicate game, simply because I don't think the ethos of it will really work in this day and age. I don't think people are really that into the idea of, like, a big shadowy Syndicate kind of, like, controlling everything, this kind of, like, post-apocalypse thing where everyone's being mind-controlled. I think people are much more paranoid in general these days.
People are past that?
I think people are just more paranoid, and I think they're more pessimistic about where the world is going. And I don't think it would be possible to really kind of go into that to the same extent it may have been 25 years ago. It was thought of this kind of thing that was very hypothetical and far in the distance. I think maybe in terms
It feels a bit too possible now.
yeah,
It
well,
all
like,
feels a bit too possible.
I think it just resonates too much with our more
possibly.
intrinsic fears today.
Yeah.
And,
Agree with that.
I just think I don't see how it really work in the same way, but that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong.
Hey man, I'd love to see it.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you want to get in touch regarding this week's episode or anything else, you can tweet us at Arcade Attack UK, at Keith Barlow 82, and at Arcade_Adriano. We're also on Facebook at facebook.com/Arcade Attack UK. Please check out our website at arcadeattack.co.uk for lots of retro gaming goodness, interviews, reviews, features, top 10s, etc. And you can also find all our previous podcasts there. Our podcasts are available to stream from the website and are available to download for free from